So this slows everything down. And this is a slowdown that we actually really might need. This might be the retrograde where we're like, whew, I needed a break. There's so much going on. Can things slow down just a little bit? Because also the year of the fire horse, it's a faster energy. It's an accelerated energy than the year of the snake. It was like this sneaky energy, and then things kind of happen once it appears. But the year of the fire horse is a lot more of this momentum forward stamina. Welcome back to the Power and Purpose podcast. I'm Vanessa Soul, your host. Thank you so much for joining me here. And thank you for investing your time and your energy into tuning into today's episode. I greatly appreciate it. So, we are talking about the month of February 2026 in astrology. It is a powerful month. And by the time that I'm recording this, it's the middle of February. This will be released on February 19th, which I believe is that Thursday. So I'll get into why that matters because halfway through the month, you are feeling things happening in your own life in the Aquarius part of your chart, especially this being released a couple days after the eclipse, which we'll talk more about. And then you're also seeing a lot play out on the global stage and collectively, which is all Aquarius energy. And so, as I'm going through these transits, to make it practical, see where this energy lines up with what's happening in your personal life and what you see happening in your community and what you see happening like in your world, in your reality. So this might confirm some things for you, or just it might help you understand like how everything has been unfolding on the global stage and in your own personal life. It is really important to know your astrology chart, or at least just have it handy to where you could reference things. So you always want to know what your rising sign is, and you want to have a link to your chart handy, especially if you're going to be keeping up with this new series that I have here on the Power and Purpose podcast, these astrology episodes. When I'm mentioning certain signs, you could see what house you have the sign in. And so astro-charts.com is a great free link where you could just look up your chart, and you could save that link in your phone. That way you'll always have it, or you could take a screenshot or whatever it is. So that way you could just reference your chart when I'm mentioning something. So that way you know where it falls. And you might not understand the house placement. You might not understand what the first house represents, or the 10th house represents, or what the 12th house represents. But sometimes I might just give you enough information. I might just tell you, hey, the first house is about identity. It's about self-awareness. It's about your physical body. It's about your vitality. It's about how you present yourself to the world and how people see you and how you come off to others and how you start things and execute things. And so I might give you most of the time enough perspective about a situation or about what represents the house, so that way you can see how it's matching up with what you're experiencing or your goals for the month, or whatever is playing out for you. And before I go through the astrology for February, I want to just mention a few things. In astrology, the astrological new year really starts on March 20th, which is the start of Aries season. That's the first sign in the zodiac. That's when the astrological new year really starts. Now, I kind of work with all three dates, and I'll give you those dates in a second. I really see each date as a milestone, as a transition period into 2026. So, yes, as an evolutionary astrologer, I honor March 20th being like the final threshold into 2026, but I also include February 17th. For this year, it's the Chinese New Year, February 17th, and it's also happens to be the day of the solar eclipse, which is in Aquarius, and that's bringing in a lot of new change and shifts for us individually and collectively. And then going back another date to January 1st. So I did it backwards, but January 1st is kind of like our modern new year, right? I don't really disregard that, even though I know it's a altered date and it doesn't have a lot of ancient history with it. Um, it's something that's been more recent, and so but because we're living in the modern world, again, I treat each date, those three dates, January 1st as the first threshold into 2026, February 17th, or the Chinese New Year, being the second threshold into 2026, and then March 20th being that third threshold into the 2026 energy. So if it's helpful, you could think of it that way too. If not, go with what works for you. So now that you understand that March 20th is like the start of the astrological new year, I'll say this. We started off the year with Uranus in retrograde and Jupiter in retrograde, Mars being invisible. And so, with those three things kind of happening, those two retrogrades and Mars being invisible, it really starts us off in this energy of preparing and not really rushing forward, not jumping the gun, not trying to blaze through and start new projects and do everything, on our goal list right away. It's literally about aligning yourself, preparing yourself, organizing your emotional state, organizing your thoughts, organizing your projects, or it might be as simple as really just organizing your calendar for some of you, organizing your energy first as we go through these thresholds of the year. Again, these three thresholds that I kind of live by, and allow these thresholds to carry us into this New Year's energy. And then you're going forward and really building momentum, especially with this year being the year of the fire horse in Chinese astrology. And at the time that I'm recording this, we're wrapping up like the last week of the wooden snake. And so a lot of us have been shedding the snake skin, so to speak, really shedding things that aren't serving us, old identities, old paradigms, old patterns, just really clearing it out and having enough clarity to do so. I feel like sometimes on January 1st, we're ready to clear things out. But often in January, in that period of Capricorn season, we're not really, sometimes we don't really have the clarity. It's it kind of comes, or at least this year, it really started to land the closer we get to the February 17th eclipse. And because I'm releasing this in the middle of February, I wanted to release it sooner, but I have this new astrology series that I'm just starting to pre-record episodes for and kind of get them all lined up and organized. But as this month is unfolding, like hopefully you're listening to this while we're still in February, but you've already seen enough of February play out, and you're probably like, what is going on? There is a lot of intense energy happening. For most people, yes, we're all seeing it play out in society, in the public, just on the global stage and in the public arena. And don't undermine the intensity that might be happening in your own life as well. And we started February off with the stellium of planets. That just means a collection of planets in a sign of Aquarius. So wherever Aquarius falls in your chart, again, it's so important to know which houses. I use the Placidus house system. You might have two houses that are on the Aquarius cusp. For me, I have Aquarius on the seventh house cusp and the eighth house cusp. So just understand where you might have that, because there was a collection of planets really drawing you into this focal point in your life, really, really wanting you to focus. Again, it's still that preparing energy. It's still that energy of sitting with things, reviewing things, kind of going with the flow. But also, if the flow carries you in a certain direction, going with that current, letting that current lead you or carry you. I'm trying to think of an ocean analogy here. Carry you in that wave, right? Carry you. The current is carrying you in the wave. That's kind of how you can think about it. And you could just think like, okay, I'm going with the flow. This presented itself. I'm going with the flow. I don't have to push my agenda forward. I don't have to push anything forward. I'm literally, until the new year really gets started and Aries season comes online, that's just the best way to approach the year. So February 3rd is when Uranus stations direct in Taurus at 27 degrees, and it went into retrograde late 2025. And Uranus, the full transit of Uranus in Taurus was since 2018. So it's been an 8-year cycle. For me, it's been challenging to say the least, because it was impacting my 10th house and my 11th house. And those are really public houses for everyone. Those houses are around our career gains and our career and what we're putting out into the world and our brand. And So with Uranus, some of us have been experiencing instability or unpredictability or just unexpected events, unexpected situations in the Taurus part of our chart. So you might have it in the second house, third house, fourth house, etc. You got to look to see where you have it. And even if you don't know what the house means just yet, just at least start with that awareness. All right. So when it stations direct, something might have loosened up for you. And because you're listening to this and we're already halfway through February or at the end of February, think back to February 3rd that week or the 4th, or it might have been the 5th for you. Something really, you got news. Maybe you didn't even take the action yet. You just got the confirmation. You got the message. You had the clarity on how to move forward with something in your life. And so, whatever has been feeling unstable for you, or where there's just been like a lot of disruption and unexpected events, it might start to really make sense in February, especially because Uranus is heading direct. It's going to stay at the same degree most of the time, but at least it's not in retrograde. On February 13th is when Saturn enters into Aries and it leaves Pisces. And so now it's in Aries for its full cycle. In 2025, it dipped into Aries and then went back into Pisces. So it went into that retrograde, and most of us had to really learn lessons around boundaries and just learning lessons in the Pisces part of our chart. So Saturn leaving Pisces and entering Aries is like moving from fog into fire. Aries is about accountability, leadership, self reliance, initiating things, energetic sovereignty, momentum. It's taking action, taking aligned action. And when Saturn enters into this Aries part of your chart, it's really bringing this mature self leadership energy. And those lessons might not be easy. They sound easy when I say them, but Saturn can bring some consequences. Like sometimes we have to see the consequence of not being mature in our self leadership in order to really understand how to do it. Also, Saturn in Aries brings building courage through discipline, and it also brings responsibility for your independence. Collectively, this can show up as stronger national identities, military focus, and more entrepreneurship. I really feel like with Saturn and Aries, you don't get to blame your circumstances anymore. You get to build your circumstances. It might be brick by brick, but at least you are taking aligned action and you're active in your own process. I also want to mention that Neptune entered into Aries in late January. So most of us are still adjusting to this energy. Neptune was in Pisces for 14 years. It's going to be in Aries for 13 years. And so it's a slower transit. And Neptune is a planet of idealism or fantasy or vision or spirituality. It also just represents creativity and our emotional landscape. So Neptune moving into Aries, that fire energy, this is a chance for us to really take action on our vision and not really getting lost in it, not really just sitting with all the ideas or getting lost in the ideas, but actually taking more action on what we want for the world, what we want to see in the world, and what we want to see in our own lives. February 17th is a solar eclipse in Aquarius. I did a full episode on this last week, so you could always go to that episode. I'll link it below in case you want to just focus on the solar eclipse, because this is going to be released a couple days after that. So you might have new things popping up in your life, or depending on what's happening in the collective that week, you might want to understand it a little bit more. The eclipse it's really about your future timeline. It's a correction point. It's something that almost has to happen either for you or for your community, or if we're looking on a global stage. It's just time for this thing to happen. It's time for this thing to be revealed. It's time for people to bring awareness around a certain topic. It's like this just has to happen. This is the time. This is the moment for it to come to light, or for a tech breakthrough, or for something happening collectively, or for a revolution to really gain momentum. I think 2026 has a lot of revolutionary energy, especially when Uranus starts to go into Gemini. With this eclipse in Aquarius, expect shifts in your social circle. I don't know why I can't talk right now. Expect shifts in your social circles, your online presence, technology, AI gearing up, AI projects coming to light. All of that is big for February, I think. And then group affiliations or just the collective challenge, the collective issue that is the most talked about thing right now as we're moving through February of 2026. So your future really requires you to be in a different room, and this eclipse is going to align you or at least give you the opportunity. I believe that we have a little bit of free will happening at the same time that we have destiny happening at the same time as well. So the eclipse week is going to be very interesting. It might be internally intense for some of us, and then for others, it's like externally intense. So the solar eclipse is not just about one day, it literally kind of plays out over months and even up to a year. And also, like I said before, on February 17th, that's the same day as the Chinese New Year. So we are officially entering to the year of the fire horse and exiting the year of the wooden snake. That alone is a lot of there's a lot of meaning there. I'm not really familiar with Chinese astrology. I know a little bit, but the year of the snake really resonated with me. And the year of the fire horse, like I'm feeling that energy as we're like getting closer to the date. So if that interests you, you might want to like dabble into that to kind of look up what that actually means. But I think it's very interesting this year that this solar eclipse is falling on February 17th, the solar eclipse in Aquarius, after we just had a really powerful stellium, a collection of planets in Aquarius, really activating our focus, our attention, our awareness in a certain area of our lives. And on the same week, on February 20th, Saturn and Neptune are conjunct at 0 degrees Aries. And this is really a new era collectively for society. In history, it's been a very prominent date. It's brought a lot like there was a new normal after the Saturn and Aries conjunction at 0 degrees, historically. So that's the pattern. And I don't know what that new normal is going to look like. There's almost no way to go back to the old paradigm. There's no way to go back to how things were. Things are permanently shifting in a new direction. A new era is being initiated. That's Aries energy. And Neptune and Saturn really create this, it creates the new structure for the new vision. And then if that's not enough energy, this is why I say that February is like a really powerful month. February 26th to March 20th is the Mercury retrograde in Pisces. So this slows everything down. And this is a slowdown that we actually really might need. This might be the retrograde where we're like, whew, I needed a break. There's so much going on. There's so much information being released. My energy has been really focused on this one area of my life. I've been putting my heart and soul into this area of my life. I've been preparing. I've been doing all these things. Can things slow down just a little bit? Because also the year of the fire horse, it's a faster energy. It's an accelerated energy than the year of the snake. I think some of us felt like the 2025, the year of the snake, it dragged. Things were just the energy was dragging. Even if you had a fantastic year personally, or career wise, or your family expanded, or you finally met your goals in 2025. I think even the people that I talk to that feel that way, that they made major breakthroughs in 2025, they still feel like the energy just was dragging. It was almost like slithering like a snake. It was like this sneaky energy, and then things kind of happen once it appears. But the year of the fire horse is a lot more of this momentum, forward stamina, this head on, okay, let's go. So I think this Mercury retrograde might feel a little bit relieving. And I don't view Mercury retrogrades as always being negative. Yes, the retrogrades force us to, well, they don't force us, they ask. that the retrogrades ask us to slow down so that we can actually review what we're doing, review the contracts that we're signing, review the communication that we're sending out, review the partnerships that we're entering into, reviewing our life, things moving fast. Like we have to have these observation periods, these observation phases of life where we just review, revise, and we recalibrate because we're constantly having to pivot as the world is happening around us. So this Mercury retrograde is all about refinement before momentum. And it's so interesting that this Mercury retrograde ends on March 20th because as I was saying, March 20th is the astrological new year. It's the first day of Aries season, and that really sets the tone for the start of 2026 in Western astrology. So if you've been wondering what the heck has been going on in February 2026, hopefully this gave you some context. And I want to mention a few things. I know we're not going to go too much into March, but I'll mention this. Mars has been invisible all the way up until March 20th. So if you're a Mars ruled sign, if your sun sign is in Aries, or if your sun sign is Scorpio, or either rising sign, Aries or Scorpio, that is the ruler of your chart if it's your rising sign. And if that's the case, you should definitely be slowing down all the way up until March 20th until Mars becomes visible again. Also, keep in mind we have Jupiter that's still going to be in retrograde until we get into March. And then we have a lunar eclipse happening in Virgo at the beginning of March. So March is the month, March 20th, but even the first couple of weeks of March kind of set us up for more forward momentum and actually like feeling more grounded in our expansion and just having more motivation. That's like not feeling like we're forcing things and we're not acting out of frustration either, because now we have more transits that are working with us and for us for your goals as we're really coming into the full expression of the 2026 energy. I hope this podcast episode was helpful. Leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube or if you are watching on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Please leave a review for the show and then share this link with at least one friend that would really benefit from hearing this information. Thanks again. Namaste and have a great day.